What's up, my beautiful people? It's your girl, Kairos, and I'm back with another seed to plant in your spirit. I know it's been a while. Since you guys last saw a video from me. I've just been honestly just embracing and protecting my space, embracing and protecting the season that I'm in, embracing and protecting just what God is doing in my life. I believe I've shared with you guys multiple times how 2023 was a very changing year for me. It was a year where I said, Lord, I am no longer going to run from the assignment, from my ministry, from who you've called me to be. I'm no longer going to run away and talk myself out of the task of my destiny. And so I fully surrendered, but with that full surrender came a lot of sacrifice. I sacrificed my business. I sacrificed my living space. I sacrificed everything that I knew in order to get to a space where I was empty enough so that he can fill me again with what he needed in order for me to fulfill my purpose and my destiny. And so today I'm on here and I just want to, number one, say that I am so grateful and that God is just a promise keeper. And last year, I remember, even though I walked away from the business that was bringing me, 10 plus K a month, even though I walked away from my apartment, even though I walked away from so many things, the Lord told me that in that season, I had to just be still. And during that time, I got baptized last year around in the month of April. I received not just the water baptism, but I also was baptized in the Holy Spirit. And the Lord gave me the gifts of tongues. And so much happened for me spiritually. But again, there was a level of sacrifice. There was a level of surrender, a continual surrender. And I saw the hand of God and the move of God in my life in such a dramatic, just an amazing way that just had me extremely grateful. And today, I had plans on literally having like balloons and flowers, and I may still go ahead and do that. But I felt led to get on here today with you guys as I celebrate 2 years of me launching and finally giving birth to what God called me to do, which is my Raise Your Spark ministry. I had a hard time calling it a ministry because, to be very honest with you, I don't know if you can agree with this or if you can relate to this, but people who are truly called to ministry don't really want to do it. At least that's my truth. It's not something that I really wanted to do. It's not something that I desired to do. My desire was just to show people how much I love Jesus. It was to just be an example of his love to the world so that they can draw closer onto him. But it was never to lead God's people. It was never to, become a pastor and preach and teach. And, that was never the idea. That was never my goal, my plan. But God, one thing I learned very rapidly is that you can't run from God. What is for you is for you. What you were created and designed to be will come to pass. It will come to pass. And so I stand before you today as the founder of Raise Your Spark and celebrating, again, 2 years of the ministry, 2 years of my yes. And so I know you're probably like, okay, Akaris, you said that last year is when you fully committed. So how is it 2 years? So I'm going to just go back a little bit, right? So let's go back to the history of a lot. So back in 2019, a year before COVID, I remember sitting in my bedroom at the time. I was living in my mama's house. So my room was, it was great for what I had. I had a full-size bed, a dresser, and 2 small closets, right? And it was perfect. It was where I created. It's where I spent the most time with the Lord and just, doing me. And so in 2019, I remember sitting in my room and I was like, all right, God, I've always had a vision of being a speaker. I wanted to be a speaker since I gave my life to Christ. So I gave my life to Christ in 2012 at the age of 17 when I was in prison. I came home at the age of 21. So I technically did 4 years and 8 months. That's how much time I served in prison. So I came home in 2017. And so from 2017 to 2019, I was, just figuring out life after prison, like figuring out what was next for me. I remember going to school. I wanted to be a hygienist and, and then, kind of just go from there, right? Because a dental hygienist was kind of the only example of career that I knew, because at the time my sister, who's my sister friend, her mama is a hygienist and she earned really good money and she had somewhat of time freedom. And I was like, all right, that's the perfect career choice for me because I'll have time freedom and I'll make a lot of money. So that was the only reason why I thought that would be a great idea. And so what I did is I was like, okay, let me go into dental assisting school. Let me become a dental assistant so that I can become familiar with the field while I'm in school to be a hygienist. And so in 2017, I literally hit the ground running. When I came home, I already had a plan and a vision. I said, I'm going to work. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to graduate. I mean, there was so much that I wanted to do. I was like, I want to be a real estate agent. I want to be a sports therapist. I want to do hygiene. I didn't know exactly what I was going to end up in, but I knew that I wanted to do something that would eventually give me the liberty to be able to spread the good news that Jesus Lord is our Savior, right? That he rose and, all that good stuff, the good news. And so in the midst of all of this, right, I'm 21, 22 years old, and I'm literally, again, just trying to figure out, what's next for me. And I remember in 2018, like November, December, I connected with an old friend, and he was in network marketing. And so he invited me to a presentation, it was World Ventures, so, you should be here kind of thing. And so I remember I signed up and I went to my first event. When I attended the first event, I was literally blown away. There were so many people in the room who just knew there was more to life than a 9-to-5. They just knew there was more to life than just living life at the bare minimum. And for me, even when I was in prison, I always knew, though I had moments where I didn't believe in myself, though I had moments where my self-talk wasn't always great, deep down in my spirit, I always knew that God was calling me to greater. I said, man, Lord, as I was building my relationship with him and getting to know him, I was like, there's no way that you're allowing me to go through this for nothing. Like, I know one day this will all make sense. And so when I'm at this event in December 2018, and I just saw how excited people were, I saw how many people were super successful, and they didn't have a high level education, yet they were making millions of dollars a year. And so I was like, that's the life I want. I don't want to cap myself and put myself in a box of a career when I just want to just make money to help the world and help my family. And so once I learned about entrepreneurship, I was like, man, I was already in school at this time. I was already working in a dental office. I was already a dental assistant. I went to school for it, blah, blah, blah. So I did like a trade for dental assisting. And then I was also in school for dental hygiene. So I had to obtain my associates, but I was going to go for my bachelor's. But at this point, I'm like almost going into I was already in my second semester of college. And I was just like, you know what? To heck with this. I'm dropping out. Like, I mean, the educational component of it was cool, but I just did not feel like that's what I wanted to do with myself. And then not only that, but I just knew of so many people who literally, had, they had all the, bachelor's, master's degrees, and they were struggling. And I was like, that's not the life I want. I'm not going to be in that rat race. And so anyway, going into 2019, I remember sitting in my room and I was like, I was in my mom's house and I was in the room and I was like, Lord, I remember having a picture on I created this, it wasn't even a vision board, honestly. It was just literally a piece of, I printed out from a computer on a printer, I printed out a car, which was a Mercedes-Benz truck, the GLE, AMG coupe. I printed that car out. And then I also printed like a check and I put $10,000 on it. I wrote 10,000 on it. And I was like, that's my goal. I want to drive this car and I want to make $10,000 a month. Because at the time, I'm like, $10,000 is great. That's all I need to survive and be good in life, right? And so sitting in my room, I was like, all right, God, I do want to make all this money. I do want to obtain these things, but I also want to impact. I know I was placed on this earth to impact. At this point, I was already making videos on, social media. They weren't going viral, but I just knew that, it only even if it touched 5 people, I knew I was doing my job. I knew that I was in alignment with what God needed me to do. And at this time, I just came home from prison, so I was going out every now and again with my friends, having drinks every now and again. So I was still kind of what we would say in the world, slightly, right? But again, I always loved Christ. And so I say all that to say that even when I was a mess, even when I didn't have it all together or all figured out, the Lord was still able to use me, because God is not looking for a perfect vessel. He's looking for an available vessel. He's looking for someone who's available. And I was always available. Like, Lord, at the time, I was also in a homosexual relationship. And as far as between 2017 and 2018, so for about a year prior to 2019. So I was in a homosexual, and God was still using me. But what I noticed is that relationship really was pulling me away from God. So once you're saved, you're always, once saved, always saved. You don't have to keep asking God, oh, Lord, save me. You received him. Now, what you have to go through is a level of repentance, surrender, and sacrifice. And so going into 2019, I remember that January, I went to church. I finally found my way back to church, because when I was in prison, I was in church all the time. I was serving in the ministry. I was a praise dancer. I was a choir not director. I was a choir lead singer and everything. So when I was in this relationship, I knew, and this may help a lot of people, because a lot of us are in relationships or in situations where we're like, is this of God? If it brings you confusion, if it is toxic, like we like to call it, if it's not producing fruit, if it's not nurturing who you're becoming or who God called you to be, or pushing you towards your dreams and your goals, it's not for you. And so that's what I recognized about that relationship, on top of the fact that I knew it was a sin. And this is no judgment to anyone who is in a homosexual relationship or who is dealing with that. But ultimately, I had to accept the truth. And the truth is that in the word, it tells us that homosexuals won't inherit the kingdom of God. That does not mean that homosexuality is the worst thing that you can be doing, because at the end of the day, there's no greater sin than the other. Okay. So I just had to throw that out there. But anyways, going into 2019, I'm already like, all right, I just learned about entrepreneurship. I don't really have to go to school. I finally left that relationship. I'm so glad I've been delivered from this. Lord, I promise you, I'm never going back to that. Now just show me the way, guide me, order my steps. And so back to my room, I was like, Lord, I want to make all this money, but I also know I was called to impact. I know I was called to draw people closer to you. So give me something so that I can do this. I want to, at the time I'm making videos, they weren't going viral, but again, they were touching people. They were still impacting people to the point where people would literally tell me, hey, do you mentor? Hey, can you mentor me? I was getting that question all the time. And I'm just like, no, I don't offer that. No, I don't offer that. A lot of it came from me denying it or saying no. It came from the fact that I just didn't feel qualified enough to do that. And I'm like, why would you want to follow me? I did 5 years in prison. I'm not all that great. I just love Jesus. That's it. But nothing else. That's it. Just leave me right where I'm at. But I said to God, I was like, Lord, just give me something. And then maybe when I'm ready, I can give birth to it. And so I remember sitting in the room with a piece of paper. And I remember at the time, my Instagram name was Sunshine Ya. So my nickname is Yaya. That's the name that I got when I was in prison. People did not want to call me Osiris, so they would call me Yaya, and I kind of stuck to the name and brought it home. So my nickname is Yaya, right? But a lot of people were calling me Sunshine. They were like, you're Sunshine, Sunshine, Sunshine. So when I created my Instagram account, I just made it Sunshine Ya, because everyone just kept calling me Sunshine. And in the Bible, if we read the Bible, it tells us that we were called to be the light of this world. And so I was like, oh, wow. So people will always tell me, oh, my God, you just have this light to you. You just have this joy, your smile. When you step into a room, you just, oh, my God. And so that's just the name I kept. And so when I'm writing on this paper, I'm like, all right, God, what is the name? What can we do here? And I remember looking at my name, and the last 3 letters of my name is RYS. So I'm like, what can we do with these 3 letters? So I'm sitting there, and the Holy Spirit gave me Raise Your Spark. And I was just like, oh, this is good. raise your spark. What is a spark? A spark is like, it goes into the same idea of light, right? And so raise your spark is basically the name that he gave me. And it was like, ignite the light within, ignite the fire within. Like, we all have a light within us. We have this thing in us, and we just have to know how to ignite it. And so raise your spark. He gave me the revelation right there. He said, raise your spark is going to be the community, the ministry that is going to help women and men ignite what I've placed in them. Because a lot of us are not walking in our fullness because of the trauma we've been through, because of our negative self-talk. We've kind of, or just things that we've been through, right? We just kind of stay in a box. But when you come into this ministry, into this community, as the leader, I'm only able to lead you through that because there was a point in time where I didn't understand what I had in me. There was a time and moment where I went through something so traumatizing and traumatic that I just felt like I was unworthy. And so when he gave me Raise Your Spark, I was like, man, this is amazing. And so I remember literally, this was already 2019. I remember literally saying things like, all right, that could be for another time, like whatever. But maybe I could, at the time I was working out very heavily. At the time I also really loved skin care. And so I was like, okay, maybe I can do RYS fitness. I can do RYS skin. Whatever I wanted to do, I was just like, I'm going to use RYS. And so let's fast forward all the way to the end of 2019. And so now at this point, I remember at the end of 2019, I just had the name. It was written down. I didn't do anything with it. I just left it there. And so now here comes 2020. I remember I was going through a tough time in my love life. I fell for someone who wasn't ready to commit, but yet we still did everything couples do. And so I was getting to a place where I was dealing with that individual for over a year. And I just got to a place where it was draining me so much because the person will reject me. The person will just, do certain things that was hurtful. And because my love was so pure towards them, it was hard for me to navigate through that pain. And so I remember towards the end of 2019 going into 2020, I had to make a decision to say, you know what? I can no longer love what doesn't love me back. I can no longer pour into who doesn't pour into me. So I had to stand up for myself and say enough is enough. And so at this point, I'm just like, getting back to myself and, just trying to just get my strength back and get my mind back, right? And I remember now in 2020, COVID hits, boom, COVID hits, whatever. Fast forward, COVID hits, whatever. 2021 is when I started doing Airbnb. So like April of 2021, I remember I saw this lady that I knew. I was following her on Facebook and I would see her all the time traveling to Houston and like organizing houses and putting stuff together and decorating and stuff. And I was just like, what are you doing? She was like, Airbnb. And I was like, oh, what is, I know what Airbnb is, but what are you specifically doing? She was like, oh, I'm becoming a host. So she started teaching me about rental arbitrage. And she was like, listen, if you want to start your business in it, you can just, buy this course, learn, and start the business. And I was like, all right, cool. So now at this point, during COVID, my job at the time, I was a dental assistant. They were closed because of COVID, blah, blah. So in 2021, going a year without working a job, I was like, oh man, this is what I always wanted. So when it was time to go back, I was not with it. I was like, what's plan B? Because I'm not doing the job thing. And so I bought the course that she referred to me, and I learned. And after I learned, I got started. I had $0 in my pocket, y'all. I did not have no money to start this business, but what I did have was good credit. And this is why I always tell people, yes, you want to have cash, but you also want to have good credit because they go hand in hand, okay? So I remember having good credit. I was able to fund myself $30,000 in a week to start this business. And so now I come to Houston, I find my first place, I lock it in, I get going, this is all going on. So by the time June hits, I have my first Airbnb unit going in Houston. And so I flew in for like 2 weeks, set it up, went back home, and I was just running my business from home. Then, true story, I don't think I ever shared this story or this part of a story. I literally remember when I first got my first unit, it was so hard to obtain a unit under a business name, especially because my LLC was so new, that I did it under my name, which was illegal because you cannot sublease. Like if you have a lease under your name, if the most properties don't allow you to rent it to other people, especially put it on third-party sites like Airbnb, because that's a violation of the lease, blah, blah, blah. So I remember sometime in August, this is truly what led me to Houston. Like let me just say this. I already knew from when I was in prison, from the day I went in 2012, that I did not want to stay in New York for the rest of my life. Like I always had a desire of leaving. And so in 2021, that was my last year on parole. And I was just like, man, I was already having conversations with my mama, like, hey, let's leave. And every time I would discuss that, she'll be like, okay, when the time is right. And so at this point, 2021, I launched my Airbnb business in June under my name. July or August, no, it was August. So in August, the property sends me a letter and says, hey, we've noticed that your property is on Airbnb. If you don't take it down, we're going to have to charge you for a violation of lease and kick you out. Or you can just remove the Airbnb from your, you can remove the apartment from Airbnb. And I was just at the house. I remember I sat in the house. I have a video, literally a video. And I remember I sat there and I was like, all right, God. Like even thinking about it now, it just makes me emotional. Because any decision I've ever made or anything I've ever had to do, it was always me consulting with God and just trusting in Him. I've never done anything because I had the answer. I've never done anything because I had all the resources. I've never done anything because I had it all figured out. I've always done everything in faith, like with my faith. My faith is what led me here. And that's so important because a lot of people, you know, we're living in a time where like people don't know how to celebrate your wins. They don't know how to celebrate the gradual growth that's happening in your life because they don't feel that you deserve it. But one thing I've learned and one thing I am learning is that if you depend on people determining what kind of the success you deserve, you will never truly be able to walk fully into who God calls you to be. Because people have a hard time celebrating someone else's dream before theirs take off. Some people have a hard time serving and helping other people build their dreams and their visions before theirs takes off because they're intimidated of you outdoing them. And that's a terrible mindset because what is for you is for you. What's for me is for me. I can sit here right now and give you the blueprint of what I've done to get here. And trust me, here is a long way from where I came from, but my God, we got so much more to go. But I am grateful to be here. But my God, when I think about everything that I've been through, I didn't just land here. You know, by the grace of God, yesterday I had an amazing call where I was able to interview Pastor Keon. I've been a member of his church for 2 years. I'm sure there's been people who've been members for way longer than me. And he felt led to not just sow into our ministry financially, but he felt led to sow into our ministry with his time, like he did yesterday. He was on a call with me for an hour, pouring into 150 people in the Raise Your Spark community. And I'm sure there's people that probably looked at that and was just like, why her and not me? But my God, there was times where I was overlooked. If you're in the beginning stages of your journey, what makes you think that I wasn't in that place at some point? And so it makes me emotional when I talk about everything that I've been through or everything that God has brought me through, because I'm just so grateful. And so because I am grateful of the things that I went through, because I endured the struggle, because I endured the pain, I just endured. I endured everything, every season. I endured the good. I endured the bad. I endured the moments where all I had was $10 in my bank account. There was times where I had negative 500, negative 1,000 in my bank account, but God still saw me through. And I still showed up, and I still celebrated everybody else, and I still served everybody else's visions and dreams and goals, even though mine weren't taken off. And that's one of the reasons why I know God is blessing me and carrying me through, because he was able to trust me in my pain. He was able to trust me in my struggle. He was able to trust me because I had faith that he would see me through. My God. And so I remember being in my room when I get this letter from this property, and I remember sitting in the bed, literally, I recorded it. I remember I was like, okay, I'm about to make a wild decision. It's either I go ahead and pay these people $6,000 for violation of my lease and just pull out of it and get rid of it, or I step out on faith and view this as a sign that God is telling me, baby girl, I know you started this business and you did this in this kind of way, but I'm gonna make this work out for good. You was doing things that weren't right because you lied and you signed the lease and said you were gonna live there, but you was really trying to start a business. You did all this mess, but I'm gonna turn it around for good. This is your opportunity to leave your home as you've always wanted to, because I've always wanted to leave New York. This is your opportunity right now. So I sat there and I was like, it's either I pay that property $6,000 right now and just terminate the lease, or I just move out there and pay them $1,500 for this rent. And I was like, well, Lord, all I make is like $2,500 a month. So if I go out there and I, stick to this apartment, my overhead is going to go up another $1,500. I don't know how I'm going to do it because, I had a car note. My car note was about $800 a month. Even though I lived with my mama, I was paying, utilities. Like all the utilities were on me. She covered rent. I covered utilities. And I remember just sitting in the bed and saying, all right, God, well, if I go over there, I know how to be a dental assistant, but I don't want to be a dental assistant. So Lord, what should I do? And I remember sitting there and I just felt a peace of God just fall on me. And in that moment, I just started to cry. And I was like, you know what, God? I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how what's getting ready to happen, but I'm just going to step out on faith and trust you. Again, y'all, listen, I was only making $2,500 a month. $2,500 a month. So for me, in my mind, I said, it makes more sense for me to just move out there because I want to leave New York anyway and pay these people $1,500 a month versus trying to come up with $6,000 to get out the lease in a few weeks. I knew that was impossible because I didn't know how I was going to figure that out. And so I was like, you know what? All right, we out. This was August. I'm like, I'm out. We out. I'm done. So I had a conversation with my parents, and they supported me. My family supported me. My friends supported me. And by October 2021, I was in Houston. And I remember when I got to Houston, I was able to, get here and figure it out. And then I remember my dad was like, listen, this is what happened. October, I moved here. And then I remember I went to a working interview for a dental office. I was like, all right, God, I'm going to step out on faith and I'm going to make it to Houston. All I had was $2,000 in my pocket. I put my car on a truck with all my stuff in it, and then I took a plane to Houston, and I went to my apartment. It was a studio apartment. It was so cute. I will never forget it. That was my first place ever. And I remember being in the house, and I'm like, all right, I don't know what's going to be next, but we're going to figure this thing out. And so I stepped out on faith, but yet I still kept working. I still kept working in the sense of like, okay, Lord, what can I do next? I didn't just step out on faith and sit on my couch. So I was like, all right, as much as I don't want to work, let me at least just work for the first 3 to 6 months until I figure this out. So I went on a working interview at a dental office. And I remember, I'm a little chunky. I hope y'all enjoying this, by the way. Make sure y'all subscribe, like, and comment, because this is the longest YouTube thing I've ever done. Anyways. So I'm like, all right, so I go on this working interview at this dental office. I forget how long I was there for. I can't remember, but I remember when I left, they gave me a check. They was like, oh my God, we really absolutely love you. I remember their rate was about 16 or 17 bucks an hour for their employees. And I was like, man, I was getting paid 30 an hour in New York. Like, y'all got to bump that up to at least 21. And they did it. They were willing to do it. They were like, we want you. I was great. And they loved it. And I was like, all right, let's talk this week and we'll figure it out. And so I remember when they gave me the check and I went in the car, I opened up the check, and I think the check, honestly, y'all, it was like $150. So it was between 150 and like 180, between that number. And I remember literally sitting in the car crying. I was like, there's no way I am going to settle for this. Like this is no way. There's no way that God brought me this far to bring me this far. Like it did not sit well with me. Like I just knew I was, not that I have a dollar amount not that a dollar amount gives me a certain number of, not that a dollar amount was going to determine my worth as a person. But what I knew is that I'm not okay with making $150 a day. I am not okay with that. Like I just cannot, especially knowing that there were people out here with no education making $1,000 a day. You know what I mean? I'm just like, there's just no way. And so at the time I had a boyfriend and he was like, yo, Karis, I do credit repair. It goes well for me. Why don't I teach you? Let's go. Just do it. I was like, all right, bet. So literally the first week of me starting a credit repair business, I literally made $10,000 in 1 week. After that, y'all, it was over. It was over. I still had moments where I struggled, of course, and went through certain things. And when you're an entrepreneur, there's going to be high months, it's going to be low months, it's going to be good days, bad days. But once I understood the freedom of being able to make whatever I wanted and there was no cap, and I was able to still have my time freedom, it was over. And so after that, I remember I launched another Airbnb unit. And then after that, I started to teach people how to start their own Airbnb businesses. And I started teaching courses and I started selling digital products and all this stuff, y'all. So back to Raise Your Spark, I had bought the Raise Your Spark domain in 2021. So because again, I was trying to avoid this whole ministry thing, I remember I literally was like, all right, I'm gonna use this website and this brand Raise Your Spark as my brand for digital products and teaching and education. And so I had raiseyourspark.com, and all you could do there is buy my Airbnb course. You could buy just different courses and things that I was just learning. As I was obtaining information, I would just dish it out and teach people. And it was going very well. So now I have multiple streams of income. So now I went from moving to Houston, scared as ever, with only $2,000 in my pocket, not knowing what the heck was going to be, what was going to go next, to now, making an average of, let's just say average of like $7-8 grand a month. So now in 2022, things are going well. Now we hit 2022. Things are going well. Like I'm still pushing. So I have my courses going on. I have my own Airbnb going on. And then I also now, I'm just teaching and educating and doing courses and master classes and all this stuff. So now I remember in August, I had just did a boot camp, like a boot camp where I was teaching people credit repair, Airbnb, all that cool stuff. And after that boot camp, I remember it was Monday, August 22nd of 2022. It was a Monday. I was like, because I do this thing with my life where I do like every quarter I sit and do inventory of my life. Like I do inventory of my overhead, what are my bills, what are my expenses, what's my income, where am I with my goals, I just do inventory of my life, and I goal set and just kind of get myself together. And so that specific day, I was getting ready to do that. And so I felt led to open up the floor for everybody. And because it was Monday, for whatever reason, the Lord gave me Mindset Monday. He said, call it Mindset Monday. So I was like, hey, y'all, it's Monday. I want to, this is what I'm doing today. I'm going to goal set, and I'm going to open this up to anybody who wants to join. Join me on Zoom. Sign up for free. Let's do it. That day, I remember it was about 10 women who joined the call. About 10 women. And we were on there. We had a blast. We were on there for like 2 hours. And after the call, they were like, can we get back on here next week, Monday? And I was like, all right, cool. So we did it again. And then more people came. It was probably like at the first one, it was like what? I said like 9, 10. So now we get back on there again. Now we got like about 14. And that number stayed the same for about 6 months. So we get on there, And we're on there and we're meeting every Monday. And now at this point, I'm like, dang, this is cool. All right, I guess I'm walking into this. And then now I'm like, I remember right there, I want to say maybe like the second or third week of me doing that, the women were like, they were giving back so much feedback, like, oh my God, your class is great. And, I would discuss different topics that the Lord placed in my belly at the time. And I remember in the midst of those first 3-4 weeks, the Lord showed me, he said, yo, Karis, Raise Your Spark wasn't for your Airbnb business and your credit repair business. I gave you Raise Your Spark for this moment right here. And I was like, oh, now it makes sense. This is okay. So he gave me the name in 2019, but it was in 2022 that I fully understood the fullness of what Raise Your Spark was going to be about and what it was going to be like. So God's timing is always so perfect, so perfect. So now September of 2022, I'm like, okay, I got to create an Instagram for this. So I created an Instagram for it. Fast forward, I've been hosting Mindset Mondays since 2022 faithfully every single Monday with no hesitation, absolutely none. And we went from having 10, 14 girls on a call to having, I mean, y'all, let me just pull up my analytics real quick because we just having a talk. Like I said, I had an idea of having this like very grand professional video about Raise Your Spark and all the goodness of it. But again, I just want to be real and I just want to be able to kick it with y'all. So I want you guys to understand that in the matter of 2 years, we've helped over 3,000 women through virtual mentorship, through Mindset Mondays for 2 years. In the matter of 2 years, over 3,000 women in our ecosystem who've been impacted by our Mindset Mondays or by anything we've ever done, okay? We've had more than 500 women impacted through our in-person events since we started. So since we started, we've had about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've had about, I want to say 8 to 9 events in the past 2 years. And we've had over 500 women in the room attending these workshops and these events who've been impacted. Our community is super diverse. So we have women from all ethnicities, all backgrounds. And 30% of our women are in their 20s and 44% of our women are in their 30s. Okay. And let me just tell you that I would have never imagined that we would get to this place. And one thing that I've been able to focus on most, because there will be times where I'll try to grow the business, not the business, it is a business because we have the profit side of Raise Your Spark and the nonprofit. So the business component is the mentorship. I do charge for mentorship. So the Women's Inner Circle is our $17 a month mentorship program, where it's a group thing where we meet every Monday. Now, if you want individual one-on-one mentorship, that's a separate fee where we're literally discussing things on a one-on-one basis and creating certain programs and things for you specifically to your specific needs. I'm also a speaker where people book me literally to speak at their events. What else? So that's like the profit side of it. We are now building and working towards our nonprofit, which is, we're going to have so many resources such as mental health. We're going to have resources such as legal services. We're going to do so much within our Raise Your Spark Foundation. And through that foundation, we also have our ministry where we have free Bible studies every Thursday. We have free prayer calls every Wednesday morning at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. If you want to know how to connect with us and how to serve, because we also now have volunteers who serve in the ministry. I mean, God is just doing a major thing, and it's just amazing to see how he literally placed and planted this seed in my belly during my pain, during, the time where I was in prison. And I mean, everything that I've been through, the struggle, everything that I've been through was able to help me give birth to this, to Raise Your Spark. And so I don't want to keep this too long, even though we're already like 40 minutes in. But I just really wanted to just share with you guys the journey of me being here and getting to this place. And now, the vision I have for Raise Your Spark is grand. I mean, we have our event coming up September 7th here in Houston. Last year I hosted it in New York because that was home. So it felt comfortable to me. And the Lord said, no, Houston is now your home and this is where you belong. And so this is where you build. And so we're hosting our first event September 7th. So if you haven't gotten your tickets to our Design for Destiny Gala, get your tickets, okay? Visit raiseyourSpark.com to get your tickets. It's about 14 days left to get your tickets. So get your tickets. And so we have this event coming up, but the Lord has placed so much in me to put into this. You know, I have a committee now of amazing leaders who help me cultivate and mold this thing, get this thing together and get it right. Just know that we have great things coming up, great things. And Raise Your Spark is a place for you to be authentically you. Just come in as you are, like authentic. I have no expectation of anybody that God doesn't have on you. So God says come as you are, so come as you are. The goal is to help you come as you are, but never leave the same. And for so many people, if you've ever been a part of Raise Your Spark and you're no longer a part, that's fine. I don't take it personal because I understand that there's a season for everything. And I understand that everything is not forever. Like certain things are for a lifetime, certain things are for a season, and that's okay. So if I've ever helped you in any way and you're no longer with us, God bless you. I still think of some of you guys. I pray for you. And if you're still here and you're a day one, I love you so much. I love you and I appreciate your love. I appreciate your support because it means a lot. I couldn't do this alone. This is not about me. I'm just sharing with you guys the journey and the process because if God could do it for me, he can do it for you. Okay, so now listen, y'all. I'm going to be back. Okay, I'm coming back to y'all. I just had to make this, and I know I talked a lot, but it's because I haven't talked in a while. But the next time I come back, I'm going to come back with some questions that some people have asked me and that people submitted to kind of understand more of the foundation of Raise Your Spark, okay? This is more of a personal / founders-ish kind of video. But the next one will be strictly about Raise Your Spark and how, we made it to this point and where God is getting ready to take us next, okay? God bless you all. I love you all. I am grateful for you all. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share this live. If you watch the live, make sure you also, tag me on it. Let me know you watched it. God bless you. And we'll talk soon. Bye.